Have you ever felt like your greatest enemy wasn't outside, but within your own mind? That silent war raging between your ears, where doubt whispers defeat before you've even begun, where fear paralyzes potential, where weakness tempts you toward the comfortable rather than the necessary. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Every single day, you wake up, already engaged in combat, not with fists or weapons, but with the invisible forces that shape your reality from within. The battlefield of the mind is where your true destiny is determined, long before any external victory or defeat manifests in your life. Has this ever happened to you? That moment when you know exactly what needs to be done, yet something inside holds you back, chains you to mediocrity. What if I told you that this internal war is the one that determines all others? That mastering this battlefield is the difference between those who merely exist and those who truly command their fate. The ancient strategist Machiavelli understood something profound that most people never grasp. Power begins not with physical strength, not with wealth, not with status, but with absolute dominion over your own thoughts. Those who cannot control their minds become prisoners of them, forever reacting to circumstances rather than creating them. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might fundamentally change how you navigate every challenge in your life. The world doesn't reward good intentions or honest effort. It rewards power. And that power starts with stripping away the comfortable illusions most people cling to throughout their lives. Look around you. Men and women aren't judged by what they deserve, but by what they can enforce, by the reality they can bend to their will through mental discipline, unwavering clarity, and ruthless control over their internal state. The weak mind is ruled by fear, addicted to comfort, chained to illusions, building prisons while begging for the key. But the strong mind? It forges fortune rather than waiting for it. It manipulates circumstance rather than bowing to it. It wields discipline as a weapon, clarity as a shield, and control as its crown. What you're about to learn are not pleasant platitudes to make you feel better about mediocrity. These are cold, effective strategies for those serious about commanding their minds before attempting to command anything else. The first law of mental war requires you to strip away all illusions about how the world works. And it begins by asking yourself one crucial question. Are you capable of ruling your own mind? Because this one question determines everything that follows in your life story. The most dangerous disease that can infect your mental fortress isn't doubt or even fear. It's self-pity. This silent killer rots your strength faster than any external enemy ever could. While you're busy feeling sorry for yourself, lamenting what should have been, others are seizing opportunities and building empires. The transformation begins when you recognize that power never originates in muscle or wealth. It's born in the disciplined chambers of your mind, where excuses go to die and results are forged. Subscribe to continue this journey into mastering the battlefield of the mind. I share strategies the masses will never hear, techniques for becoming truly untouchable in a world that wants to control you. Don't miss what comes next. Think of your thoughts as soldiers in the greatest army you'll ever command. When these mental troops are disorganized, undisciplined, and driven by fear, your entire empire collapses before the battle even begins. Your internal dialogue, those constant whispers that either empower or sabotage you, determines the outcome long before you take a single action in the physical world. But what happens when you marshal these thought soldiers with precision, with cold discipline, with unwavering clarity? No enemy can penetrate your defenses. No circumstance can break your resolve. The hidden truth is that your mindset becomes an impenetrable fortress, but only through deliberate command, not wishful thinking. The journey toward this level of mental dominion requires something most people aren't willing to do. You must become your own tyrant before the world ever crowns you king. This isn't about self-abuse, it's about self-mastery. It's the revelation that the most compassionate thing you can do for yourself is to impose order on the chaos of your mind. Power respects no hesitation. The one who hesitates is devoured. Every moment of indecision, every compromise with weakness, every negotiation with your lesser self, these are the invisible decisions that shape your destiny far more profoundly than any external choice. Now, I want to go even deeper into this concept, the battlefield of your mind offers you a fundamental choice each day. Will you feed your fear or will you feed your fire? This decision isn't made once and forgotten. It's made moment by moment in the secrecy of your thoughts where no one else can see, but everyone will eventually witness the results. When you surrender to self-pity, you hand your crown to circumstance. When you indulge in excuses, you forfeit your throne to weakness. But when you impose discipline on your thoughts, when you command them rather, than being commanded by them, you begin building an empire that no betrayal, no failure, no enemy can collapse. The impact of this mental discipline extends far beyond your personal achievements. It transforms how the world responds to you, how opportunities present themselves, how obstacles dissolve before your advance. Not because reality has changed, but because your perception and approach to reality have fundamentally shifted. Write in the comments, "I command my mind. I command my fate." Let these words echo through your thoughts until they harden into instinct, because only when you chain your mind to your will can you walk into the world untouchable. Let's confront an uncomfortable truth that few are willing to face. Discipline isn't something you choose to have. It's the fundamental foundation upon which all power is built. Every empire that has ever stood, every throne that has ever commanded respect, every legacy that has outlived its creator, all were constructed on the unyielding bedrock of discipline. Without this foundation, power leaks through your fingers like water, leaving you grasping at nothing but lost potential. This revelation transforms how we must approach our daily existence. The greatest warriors, leaders, and innovators throughout history understood that their achievements weren't born from talent alone, but from the ruthless implementation of discipline in every aspect of their lives. Behind the scenes of every success story lies the untold. Hours of disciplined practice, disciplined thought, and disciplined action that the masses never witness. But here's the paradox that reshapes your entire journey. Your greatest enemy isn't suffering, it's comfort. Comfort whispers seductive lies, promising safety while secretly draining your strength. It lulls you to sleep with pleasant dreams while your competitors sharpen their blades in the darkness. The mindset shift that changes everything comes when you recognize comfort as the silent assassin of greatness. Discipline is the cold steel that awakens you to reality. It's the alarm that jolts you from comfortable slumber and forces you to confront what truly matters. When you embrace discipline, you're not punishing yourself. You're protecting yourself from the slow death of mediocrity that claims most lives. The hidden truth few will ever grasp is that discipline isn't merely about following rules. It's a silent oath you make to yourself when no one else is watching. It's the private promise you keep in the darkness that eventually illuminates your path to power. The decisions you make in solitude, when no one would know if you compromised, are precisely the ones that forge your character and determine your destiny. The law of power is devastatingly simple. If you cannot rule yourself, you will inevitably be ruled by others. Every action you take either strengthens your empire or weakens it. Every thought you indulge either trains your mind for war or leaves it soft for slaughter. There is no neutral ground in this battle. You are either gaining ground or losing it with each passing moment. The impact of this understanding reaches far beyond mere productivity. It touches every dimension of your existence. Those who master discipline don't just accomplish more, they become more. Their very presence commands respect without demanding it. Their consistency becomes their signature, more powerful than any promise or declaration could ever be. Now I want to go even deeper into what this means for your daily life. When others around you indulge, you restrain. When others doubt, you act. When others break, you endure. This isn't just philosophy, it's strategy for those serious about commanding their reality rather than being commanded by it. Put down in the comments, "My discipline is my empire, and I rule without mercy." Etch these words not just on the screen, but into your mind. Because when discipline becomes absolute, you don't just survive the battlefield, you dominate it. Imagine waking up each morning not as a civilian in this life, but as a commander preparing for battle. This isn't some abstract metaphor. It's a fundamental shift in perspective that transforms every aspect of your existence. The elite few who achieve greatness approach each day with the precision of a general inspecting troops before combat. Their thoughts are disciplined, their actions calculated, their resolve unbreakable. This commander's mindset creates an unbridgeable gap between you and the masses. When others indulge in momentary pleasures, you exercise restraint. When doubt paralyzes those around you, you move decisively. When adversity breaks the spirit of ordinary people, you stand firm, weathering storms that devastate the unprepared. This isn't about perfection, it's about persistence through imperfection. The journey toward this level of mental command reveals another powerful revelation. Clarity is a weapon sharper than any blade ever forged. Look around you. Most people stumble through life distracted, emotional, and clouded by illusions. They drown in noise, in others' opinions, in empty promises and fleeting pleasures. Their mental fog makes them remarkably easy to influence, to control, and ultimately to defeat. But the individual who trains their mind to see with ruthless clarity becomes virtually untouchable. They pierce through the smoke of deception and emotional manipulation. While others react, they observe. While others assume, they analyze. This clarity cuts through the masks people wear and exposes the raw machinery of human interaction. Behind the scenes of every powerful life lies this uncomfortable truth. A clear mind is dangerous precisely because it cannot be deceived. You'll no longer be swayed by flattery nor shaken by insults. You'll stop chasing fantasies and instead hunt opportunities with predatory focus. Your decisions become surgical rather than emotional. Now, I want to go even deeper into what makes this Machiavellian perspective so transformative. It begins with seeing people not as they pretend to be, but as they truly are, motivated primarily by fear, greed, ambition, and self-interest. This isn't cynicism, it's strategic awareness. Understanding these core motivations gives you unprecedented insight into human behavior. This revelation doesn't make you harsh, it makes you honest. It doesn't make you manipulative, it makes you immune to manipulation. When you recognize the underlying drives that govern human action, you gain a map to territories others navigate blindly. This understanding becomes the fuel for your rise, not because you exploit others, but because you're no longer exploited by naivety. The mindset breakthrough comes when you realize that seeing reality clearly, without the distortion of wishful thinking or emotional reaction, gives you command over yourself and leverage over circumstances that would otherwise control you. The emotional person remains a slave to reaction, but the clear-minded individual dictates the outcome. Write in the comments, "I see through lies and I walk with clarity." Let these words take root in your consciousness, because clarity is the armor of kings and the nightmare of deceivers. The person who sees reality as it truly is already stands one step above every adversary they'll ever face. A clear mind offers you an advantage that few in this world ever attain. Think about it. When your perception is unclouded by delusion or emotional turbulence, you become virtually impossible to manipulate. Flattery bounces off you like arrows against stone. Insults reveal more about the attacker than they wound you. This mental clarity transforms your entire decision-making process, shifting you from someone who chases fantasies to someone who hunts opportunities with precision and patience. The awakening happens when you realize that most human interaction happens behind a veil of social masks and pretense. Clarity is the blade that cuts through these illusions, exposing the raw truth of situations and relationships. It's not about becoming cynical, it's about becoming accurate in your assessment of reality. This precision gives you an extraordinary advantage in navigating the complexities of life that leave others confused and reactive. The breakthrough insight that changes everything is how you relate to your emotions. Most people are enslaved by their emotional responses. They become their anger, their fear, their excitement. But what if you could create distance between yourself and these emotional states? Imagine observing your emotions like a commander watching soldiers on a battlefield, calculating, detached, strategic, and always in control. When emotions flare within you, this shift in perspective allows you to study them rather than become them. You notice the physical sensations, the thoughts they trigger, the actions they tempt you toward, all without surrendering your decision-making authority to them. The revelation here is profound. The emotional person remains forever a slave to reaction, but the clear-minded individual dictates outcomes from a position of control. Now I want to go even deeper into perhaps the most counterintuitive aspect of this journey toward mental sovereignty. Pain, the very thing most people spend their entire lives avoiding, becomes your most loyal servant when properly understood. While the masses fear pain, the mentally sovereign harvest it for strength. Consider this paradigm shift. Every betrayal, every humiliation, every failure you've endured isn't a curse. It's raw material waiting to be forged into a weapon. The transformation occurs not in avoiding suffering, but in your relationship to it. Behind every powerful individual stands a history of pain that would have broken someone weaker, but instead became the catalyst for their ascension. This perspective doesn't glorify suffering for its own sake. Rather, it recognizes the alchemical potential within difficulty. Pain gives you knowledge that comfort never could. It reveals your true capabilities, exposes the loyalty or disloyalty of others, and hardens you against future attacks. While others remain fragile, you become anti-fragile, growing stronger precisely because of what would destroy the unprepared. The mindset revolution begins when you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "How is this strengthening me?" This isn't positive thinking, it's strategic thinking. Your adversaries fear not your comfort, but your endurance, your ability to transform every strike against you into fuel for your rise. Write in the comments, "I turn my pain into power, and no force can break me." Because once pain becomes your teacher rather than your enemy, you've eliminated the most common weakness that keeps people trapped in mediocrity throughout their lives. Centuries ago, Machiavelli captured an essential truth that most will never grasp. Fortune is like a woman who yields only to the bold and relentless. This isn't mere poetry. It's a fundamental principle of power that has shaped empires and destinies throughout history. Those who approach life timidly, who shrink from challenges, who beg for mercy from circumstance, these individuals will forever remain at the mercy of fortune's whims. The bold don't wait for favorable conditions. They create them. They don't hope for good luck. They force it through sheer will and calculated action. This revelation transforms your entire relationship with adversity. The breakthrough moment arrives when you recognize that you cannot fear pain. You must instead harness it, channel it, and ultimately transform it into unprecedented strength. Consider the profound inner journey this represents. Most people spend their lives avoiding discomfort at all costs, believing that happiness lies in the absence of struggle. But this is perhaps the most dangerous illusion of all. The true alchemy of power, the sacred transformation that few will ever experience, comes from converting wounds into weapons, scars into armor, and betrayals into invaluable insight. The weak hide from pain, constructing elaborate defenses to avoid feeling anything unpleasant. But the strong? They harvest pain like a resource, mining it for the treasures hidden within. This isn't reckless masochism. It's strategic resilience. It's the understanding that comfort weakens while appropriate struggle strengthens. The mindset shift occurs when you stop seeing difficulty as something that happens to you and start seeing it as something that happens for you. Now, I want to go even deeper into this hidden dimension of personal sovereignty. Pain is the most honest teacher you will ever encounter, more forthright than any friend, more revealing than any mentor. While friends might flatter, pain never lies. While mentors might soften criticism, pain delivers its lessons with unflinching clarity. It exposes exactly where you are. Weak, precisely where your defenses fail, specifically where your character needs development. The decision point that separates the extraordinary from the ordinary comes after pain has done its revealing work. Once your weaknesses are exposed, you face the decisive moment of truth. Will you remain broken, or will you build unbreakable strength precisely where you were once vulnerable? This choice, made thousands of times throughout a lifetime, sculpts your destiny more powerfully than any external circumstance ever could. The revelation that changes everything is that pain gives you knowledge others cannot bear to face. While the masses run from difficult truths about themselves, you lean in, examine the wound, understand its cause, and fortify that exact point. This knowledge becomes your advantage. That advantage becomes your throne. Your enemies don't fear your comfort. They fear your capacity to endure what would break them. Type in the comments, "I embrace the storm that others flee." Because only when you recognize pain as the ultimate teacher rather than the ultimate enemy do you begin walking the path that few will ever discover, the path toward becoming genuinely untouchable in mind and spirit. Beyond mastering your own mind lies another dimension of power, understanding that life itself is a grand chessboard, and every person you encounter is a piece on this board. This isn't a cynical metaphor. It's a strategic revelation that transforms how you navigate human interactions. Some people you meet are pawns, predictable, limited in their movements, easily influenced. Others are knights, unpredictable in their patterns. Some are rooks, powerful but straightforward. Few are queens, with vast influence and reach. But only one will be king. The one who sees the game clearly and moves with strategy rather than emotion. The transformation begins when you recognize that most people are unaware they're even on a board. They drift through life, manipulated by stronger wills, believing they're making independent choices while every step they take is calculated by someone with greater awareness. This isn't about viewing people with contempt. It's about seeing the invisible architecture of influence that shapes human behavior. Machiavelli's greatest insight wasn't about politics, but about human nature. He understood that people are rarely driven by lofty ideals or noble principles. Behind the facade of righteousness and morality, most actions are motivated by fundamental drives: fear, desire, ambition, and self-interest. This isn't a judgment, it's an observation that provides unprecedented leverage in understanding human behavior. The revelation that changes everything is this: to command others, you must first understand what chains them. Some people are bound by greed. Offer them financial incentive and they'll move in any direction. Others are bound by vanity. Feed their ego, and they'll walk willingly into your design. Many are bound by Fear. Identify what they're afraid of losing, and you understand their boundaries of action. This awareness isn't about exploitation, it's about clarity. Now, I want to go even deeper into this dimension of influence. To truly master minds, you must learn to see the strings that control people, and when necessary, pull them with precision. This isn't cruelty, it's strategy. The world has always operated through manipulation, influence, and leverage. The only question is whether you'll be the one pulling strings or the one whose strings are being pulled by others. The journey toward this level of strategic awareness demands detachment, the ability to observe human behavior without being swept up in emotional reactions. Study people as a hunter studies prey. Watch their patterns, their triggers, their insecurities. Most people move in predictable rhythms once you learn to recognize them. The person who remains calm while others drown in emotion inevitably becomes the master of any situation. This isn't about malice or taking advantage. It's about survival and sovereignty in a world where influence is the currency of power. The mindset shift occurs when you realize that every interaction is an exchange of influence. Either you're shaping the environment or being shaped by it. There is no neutral ground. Write in the comments, "I am the master of the board and no mind controls me." Because once you see the strings, once you understand the moves, you're no longer merely a player in the game. You become the game itself. The truly powerful individual cultivates a hunter's detachment when observing others. Just as a predator studies its prey, watching movements, cataloging patterns, noting vulnerabilities, you must develop the discipline to observe human behavior with clinical precision. This isn't about malice, it's about clarity. When you strip away emotional interference, you see people as they truly are, not as you wish them to be. The transformation happens when you realize that most people remain perpetually trapped in emotional turbulence. They react, defend, attack, and justify without pause for calculation. Meanwhile, the person who maintains calm detachment while others drown in emotion inevitably becomes the master of any situation. Your stillness becomes your strength, your observation, your advantage. This detachment gives birth to perhaps the most crucial revelation in the journey toward mental sovereignty. Never react immediately to any situation. The moment you react, you've surrendered control. Always calculate. The ancient wisdom reveals itself. The one who reacts loses. The one who observes dictates. This single principle separates those who control circumstances from those controlled by them. Consider the hidden truth behind every interaction that provokes you. Every insult, every betrayal, every attempt to deceive becomes valuable intelligence rather than emotional injury. You're gathering data that sharpens your advantage, while others expose their weaknesses through impulsive reactions. Appear harmless if the situation demands it. Appear kind if useful, but never, not for a single moment, lose sight of your ultimate goal. Now, I want to go even deeper into perhaps the most uncomfortable revelation about human nature. People are not loyal to you. They are loyal to what you provide. This isn't cynicism. It's strategic awareness. The profound mindset shift occurs when you accept that loyalty is conditional, not absolute. Withdraw what you provide and watch how quickly alliances shift, friendships cool, and loyalties realign. This revelation doesn't make you bitter, it makes you wise. Understanding the transactional nature of human relationships gives you unprecedented clarity. You stop expecting unconditional loyalty and start recognizing the levers of influence that truly motivate behavior. You build alliances based on mutual benefit rather than empty promises. You create systems where loyalty serves both parties rather than demanding it as a moral obligation. Behind the scenes of every powerful life lies this fundamental awareness. People follow strength, reward, and protection. They drift away from weakness, scarcity, and vulnerability. The sovereignty you seek comes not from demanding loyalty, but from understanding precisely why it's given and withdrawn. The chess master doesn't resent the nature of the pieces. He simply uses their properties to shape the game. Share in the comments. I understand the true nature of loyalty, because once you grasp this reality without resentment or naivety, you hold a key that unlocks unprecedented influence in every relationship you navigate. Power manifests differently depending on how you approach it. For those who desperately chase power as something external to themselves, it remains perpetually fragile, easily lost, easily broken, easily stripped away. But for those rare individuals who embody power as an internal state, it becomes virtually eternal. This revelation transforms your entire understanding of strength and influence in this world. The journey toward becoming untouchable doesn't mean eliminating enemies or avoiding conflict. Such goals are fantasies for the naive. True sovereignty means rendering enemies functionally powerless against you, regardless of their intentions or efforts. While ordinary people spend their lives dodging conflict and hiding from judgment, the mentally sovereign understand that conflict is inevitable. The difference lies not in avoiding storms, but in building yourself into something that storms cannot break. Consider this fundamental shift in perspective. Becoming untouchable isn't about constructing impenetrable external defenses. It's about forging an internal fortress so formidable that external attacks become irrelevant. Your true transformation begins when you no longer need the world's protection because you've become your own sanctuary. Machiavelli captured this insight centuries ago in his most famous observation, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." This isn't sadism. It's strategic awareness. Love is conditional, shifting with fortune and circumstance. When your power wanes, when your resources diminish, when your utility expires, love evaporates like morning dew. But fear endures. Fear creates a barrier around you that affection could never maintain. The revelation here isn't that you should be cruel, it's that you should be consistent and consequential. People respect boundaries they dare not cross more reliably than boundaries they're merely asked not to cross. The impact of this understanding reshapes every relationship you navigate, every boundary you establish, every consequence you enforce. Now, I want to go even deeper into perhaps the most crucial vulnerability you must master on this journey: your own emotional weaknesses. Here lies the hidden truth that separates the truly powerful from pretenders. Your emotions will betray you faster than any external enemy ever could. This is the battlefield where most are defeated before they even recognize they're at war. If anger rules you, your adversaries need only bait you into reckless, impulsive moves that serve their strategy, not yours. If vanity governs your decisions, they'll simply flatter you into blindness while positioning for attack. If greed dictates your choices, they'll dangle tempting opportunities until you willingly walk into a trap. If comfort controls you, they'll simply wait until you've grown soft before striking. The mindset revolution begins when you recognize that emotional mastery isn't about suppression. It's about strategic direction. You don't eliminate emotions, you subordinate them to your will. You harness their energy while never surrendering your command to their impulses. This isn't coldness, it's clarity. It's the ability to feel deeply while deciding deliberately, never allowing momentary emotions to override. Long-term strategy. Drop in the comments, "I am untouchable and no power on earth can break me." Because when you truly embody this principle, when you command your emotions rather than being commanded by them, you've eliminated the most common vulnerability that renders others perpetually manipulable. When you reach the state of commanding yourself with iron discipline, when your thoughts, emotions, and actions all answer to your sovereign will, you attain a level of personal power that few will. ever experience. This transformation isn't merely internal, it radiates outward, fundamentally altering how the world responds to you. Imagine the profound impact when your adversaries realize that nothing moves you, not threats, not temptations, not emotional manipulation. Their tactics become useless against someone who cannot be provoked, cannot be seduced, cannot be intimidated. This self-command creates an aura of invincibility that transcends physical strength or material resources. People instinctively sense when someone has achieved this level of internal mastery. They may not understand it intellectually, but they feel it viscerally. The confusion in manipulators when their tricks fall flat, the respect that emerges even from those who oppose you, the natural deference that occurs when others recognize someone who cannot be controlled. These are the external manifestations of internal sovereignty. The journey toward this level of personal power reveals perhaps the most counterintuitive truth of all. Genuine strength doesn't come from avoiding life's fires. It comes from walking directly through them and emerging untouched. While the masses desperately seek comfort and safety, the mentally sovereign recognize that these very comforts weaken the spirit and soften resolve. Behind the scenes of every truly powerful life stands this hidden revelation. Every challenge conquered becomes a source of strength rather than a drain upon it. The mindset shift that changes everything is recognizing the alchemical potential within adversity. Every scar becomes armor against future attacks. Every loss becomes a weapon of experience and foresight. Every betrayal becomes enhanced perception that prevents future blindsides. This isn't mere positive thinking, it's strategic transformation of experience into advantage. Now, I want to go even deeper into the architectural metaphor that best captures this philosophy. Begin to see yourself not as a vulnerable individual, navigating a hostile world, but as a fortress, impenetrable, sovereign, commanding. The walls of this fortress are built of discipline, habits and practices that cannot be breached by momentary impulse or external pressure. The gates are constructed of clarity, controlled access to what influences you and what doesn't. The weapons are forged of resilience, the ability to absorb strikes that would shatter others. Inside this mental fortress, you remain untouchable regardless of external circumstances. Outside, the world may burn with chaos, manipulation, and weakness, but within your walls, you maintain perfect sovereignty. This isn't isolation, it's strategic position. You engage with the world on your terms, from your center of power, rather than being swept along by its currents. The revelation that transforms your existence is that this fortress isn't built in a day. Each stone is laid through daily practice, each defense strengthened through consistent choice, each weapon sharpened through deliberate challenge. Your decisions aren't merely decisions, they're architecture. They're either fortifying your position or creating vulnerabilities that others will exploit. Write in the comments, "I am building my fortress day by day," because the construction of this internal citadel, this sovereign center that cannot be invaded, represents the most consequential project of your entire life. The cornerstone of all genuine power lies in this fundamental principle. To rule others, you must first establish absolute sovereignty over yourself. This isn't merely a philosophical concept, it's the practical foundation of all meaningful influence in this world. Sovereignty begins with mastery over the one battlefield that determines all others, the mind. While most struggle to control external circumstances, the truly powerful focus on commanding the internal domain that shapes how they perceive and respond to those circumstances. This mental sovereignty represents the ultimate liberation. It's the state where external events may impact you, but they no longer control you. The transformation occurs when you recognize that nothing outside yourself has inherent power over your internal state unless you grant it that power. Your thoughts, your emotions, your responses, these belong to you alone, and reclaiming full ownership of them is the first step toward genuine power. The revelation that changes everything is understanding what true freedom actually means. Most people operate under the profound delusion that freedom means indulging every impulse, following every desire, and avoiding all constraint. But this isn't freedom. It's the most insidious form of imprisonment. The paradox that most never grasp is that authentic freedom is not the ability to indulge every desire, but the ability to command desire and force it into obedience. Consider the mindset shift this represents. The untouchable individual doesn't attempt to eliminate emotion, an impossible and undesirable goal. Instead, they enslave emotion to their sovereign will. They take their anger and harness it as fuel for focused action rather than destructive reaction. They take their fear and transform it into heightened awareness rather than paralysis. They take their desire and direct it towards strategic goals rather than momentary gratification. Now, I want to go even deeper into perhaps the most powerful state of mind you can cultivate: detachment. To become truly sovereign is to live in a state of calculated detachment from outcomes that would destroy the average person. This doesn't mean becoming cold or unfeeling. It means creating strategic distance between yourself and your experiences. When insults come your way, you no longer react defensively or lash out emotionally. Instead, you recognize them as revealing maps of your opponent's insecurities and weaknesses. When betrayal occurs, you don't collapse in shock or spiral into revenge fantasies. You anticipate it as an inevitable feature of human interaction and incorporate it into your strategic awareness. When rejection strikes, you don't internalize it as personal failure, but recognize it as valuable data about alignment and compatibility. The journey toward this level of detachment represents perhaps the most profound inner transformation possible. Behind the scenes of every powerful life stands this hidden practice, the ability to experience everything without being defined by anything. You observe rather than absorb. You calculate rather than react. You decide rather than default. This detachment gives you an almost supernatural advantage in every domain of life. While others are controlled by their need for approval, their fear of rejection, their addiction to certainty, you remain centered in your sovereignty, unmoved by the forces that enslave ordinary minds. Write in the comments, "I am sovereign over myself and no man holds my leash." Because sovereignty isn't about ruling the world. It's about ruling the one thing that controls how you experience the world, your own mind. In the realm of personal sovereignty, one truth stands above all others. Respect, far more than love or friendship, functions as the true currency of power. This revelation transforms how you approach every relationship in your life. While the masses chase affection and approval, the mentally sovereign pursue something far more valuable: genuine respect that cannot be faked or fabricated. Consider this hidden truth that few ever acknowledge. Men and women may pretend to love you for strategic advantage, but they never pretend to respect you. Respect cannot be counterfeited. It emerges organically when others recognize your boundaries are unbreachable, your principles uncompromising, your sovereignty absolute. This respect, begrudging or willing, creates a barrier around you more effective than any defense money could buy. The impact of this understanding ripples through every interaction you navigate. When you prioritize being respected over being liked, your entire approach to communication, negotiation, and leadership fundamentally shifts. You stop compromising vital principles for momentary approval. You cease diluting your strength to make others comfortable. You begin operating from a center of power rather than a position of need. This journey toward commanding respect rather than requesting it leads us to perhaps the most misunderstood dimension of personal power: the shadow within. Every person carries a shadow, the darker aspects of themselves that they hide from the world, that they deny in the name of morality, civility, or fear. Yet it is precisely this shadow, this concealed force, that holds the key to untouchable power. The critical mindset shift occurs when you recognize that weak individuals repress their shadow, bury it deep, and in doing so become fundamentally incomplete. They become predictable, soft, incapable of true dominance. But the person who confronts their shadow, who integrates it, who bends it to their sovereign will, this person becomes whole. They become dangerous. They become untouchable. Now I want to go even deeper into this transformation. Your shadow is not your enemy. It's your unrefined arsenal. It contains your aggression, your ambition, your ruthlessness, your hunger, stripped of social masks and pretense. If you deny its existence, it rules you unconsciously, erupting in moments of crisis when you can least afford to lose control. If you master it, you wield it consciously, deploying its tremendous power with surgical precision. Behind the scenes of every truly powerful life stands this revelation. The shadow grants you the fire that others suppress. It gives you the will to act when others hesitate, the strength to cut ties when others cling to the harmful, the clarity to strike when others tremble with indecision. But this only happens when you control it rather than being controlled by it. Uncontrolled, the shadow corrupts. It blinds you with rage, devours you with greed, poisons you with arrogance. Controlled, it becomes your hidden weapon, your silent ally, your unseen advantage. Every ruler in history who commanded nations had first mastered the darkness within himself. Without this integration, he would have been crushed by stronger, hungrier rivals. Write in the comments, "I command my shadow, and my shadow obeys." Because when you master your shadow, you master the battlefield within. And from that mastery, no external enemy can ever truly defeat you. At the summit of this journey toward mental sovereignty stands something more valuable than any material crown, what we might call the crown of cold power. Unlike crowns of gold or jewels that can be stolen or toppled, this crown exists within your mind, forged through discipline, clarity, and the mastery of self. It cannot be taken by force, cannot be diminished by circumstance, cannot be shattered by betrayal. This crown isn't displayed, it radiates. You can sense it in someone's silence, in the weight of their presence, in the measured precision of their words. Those who encounter it feel it instinctively. They hesitate, they defer, they respect. Not because they're forced to, but because they recognize something fundamentally unshakable before them. The transformation that occurs when you wear this crown changes everything. You no longer need to announce your power. The world announces it. For you, people whisper of your strength. Enemies hesitate before striking. Allies rally without request, not because you begged, not because you pleaded, but because you've built yourself into something undeniable through the architecture of your mind. Now, I want to go even deeper into how this crown manifests in daily interaction. The protocol of invisible influence reveals that you win battles not by shouting but by subtly shaping the air others breathe. True influence isn't noise, it's architecture. You design frames that determine how situations are perceived. You control context that defines how information is interpreted. You establish what matters and when it matters, all while appearing to do nothing at all. The revelation that changes everything is understanding that the weak speak to be heard, while the strong move in silence to be obeyed. Your presence becomes a gravity that bends reality around it. You don't push, others shift. You don't plead, conditions align. You don't chase, circumstances gravitate toward you. This is the culmination of all we've discussed, influence so refined it becomes invisible to the untrained eye. Yet behind this journey lies a truth few are prepared to face. Power is never given without sacrifice. The final trial demands that you die as the person you are, to be reborn as the person you're meant to become. This isn't metaphorical, it's the lived experience of transformation. Most fail this trial because they cannot endure solitude, cannot sever attachments to comfort, cannot face the silence that reveals who they truly are. To ascend, you must crucify weakness on the altar of discipline. You must strip yourself bare until nothing remains but raw steel. Fortune favors the bold, but boldness isn't recklessness. It's the calculated will to seize opportunity without hesitation. This will only emerge from the individual who has walked through fire and refused to bow. The ultimate state, becoming truly untouchable, means becoming immune to the world's weapons. Fear cannot pierce you because you faced it directly. Flattery cannot blind you because you see through masks. Comfort cannot seduce you because you recognize its poison. Betrayal cannot shatter you because you anticipated it as strategy. You no longer react to life. You dictate it from a position of sovereign control. Write in the comments, "I have passed the trial. I am untouchable. I am power." Because from this moment forward, the question isn't whether life will test you. The question is whether you'll endure the test and emerge as one of the few who truly command their destiny. You've now walked through the battlefield of the mind with me, seen the architecture of power that few will ever glimpse. The journey doesn't end with knowledge. It begins with implementation. Every principle we've covered today represents a choice you'll make daily, a decision point between remaining ordinary or becoming truly sovereign. If you've recognized yourself in these words, if something deep within you has awakened to the possibilities of mental command, then our paths were meant to cross. The philosophy of Machiavelli isn't for everyone. It's for those rare individuals who sense there's something more powerful waiting beyond conventional thinking. Subscribe to continue this journey with me. Each video builds upon these foundations, creating a comprehensive system for mental sovereignty that can transform every dimension of your existence. The most valuable insights often come in the videos most people never see. If this message resonated with your spirit, press the like button, not for me, but as a declaration to yourself that you're committed to this path of power. It's a small action that signals a profound decision. Let me know you're one of the few who made it to the end by commenting, "The crown of cold power is mine, and I will never surrender it." This isn't merely a comment, it's a commitment to yourself. Right here is another video that deepens these concepts even further. Click and join me there as we explore the next dimension of mental mastery, where theory transforms into unstoppable action.